all day, every day, 24/7, 365. And so we need to learn about them because we don't know much about them. So that's why I'm jumping up and down about it. It matters. So let's talk about emotional intelligence. Okay. We call it EQ. There's IQ, our left brain logic, and a lot of people know about studying and quantifying and being able to understand and measure our logical intelligence, our IQ, but we don't talk about EQ. So we call it EQ to balance them. I really actually believe that if you look at the statistics and what's happening in the world today, the lack of emotional intelligence education is the number 2 biggest problem in the world today. You can probably guess what number 1 is. Number 2 is emotional intelligence, in my opinion. With us not knowing how to deal with our feelings, that leads to violence and abuse and addictions. You guys probably know about the suicide rate is skyrocketing right now in the United States and in Asia. It's awful. People are not being able to handle lockdown. They're not being able to handle disconnect. They're not being able to handle uncertainty, and they are not handling it well. And people are leaving. They're leaving. They're saying, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm out of here. And it's not good. Suicide, mental health issues are rising, physical health issues. We've now connected emotions with physical health issues in a very real way. And so we can actually improve our lives. And actually, technically, some studies are showing we can live longer if we will deal with our emotions. If we know how to deal with our emotions, we'll actually live longer. Pretty cool, huh? A whole bunch of crime is about lack of emotional intelligence, and even war, right? Is people not being able to get along, and we gotta fight with them. So emotional intelligence is super important. And it's not taught in schools yet. It's starting in the United States. It's starting I know in India, they just came with a new law, I think it was a year or so ago, that you're supposed to have a counselor in every school. So that's helpful. That may not have the money for it, but it's a start. It's a start. We're moving in that direction. I'm very happy about that. But for us as adults now, we were not taught probably, and we never talked about them. And so how are we supposed to learn about this stuff? We just have to make it up on our own, and it's not very ineffective and very painful way to learn. So it's leading to a lot of problems. So there's a bad news about the past emotionally, but now here comes the good news. Emotions are very teachable. They're very teachable skills. We already have what we need, most of us, inside of us, and so do the kids. It's all free. It's all free. It's all free. Once we understand this stuff, it's just information. We just need to learn how to use it, but it's all free inside of us. It's pretty cool, right? As much as we want, anytime we want. We are in charge. This is the best news yet, and I'm going to say this a number of times during this. We are in charge of what's going on inside of us, no matter what's happening outside. If there's a pandemic, or it's not our parents, it's not the government, it's not our teachers, it's not the kids, it's not the economy. It is us. We get to be in charge of us. What's going on inside of us? Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions are ours, and we get to be in charge of those. And that, to me, is the best news I've ever heard. Call me a control freak if you want, but I want to be in control of me. And so I know with emotional intelligence, I am in control of me, and I love that. But we have to take responsibility, but we are in charge, and I'll talk much more about that in a bit. And not only are we responsible and in charge of what's happening inside of us, we can adjust things. We can change things. If things aren't going well, if we're having bad thoughts, we're having bad feelings, we can adjust them. We can change them. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but that has to do with the control part. And it's a wonderful, freeing, powerful feeling to know that we are in charge of our own lives, right? So let's talk about some of the basics. What's emotional intelligence? What is it? It's just about being smarter about our thoughts and our feelings. We don't usually do that, but we need to. We need to study it. We need to learn about it. We need to talk to people about it. And we need to understand what's going on inside of us and be smarter about it. A lot of people that have no idea, they've never even heard the concept that you can be smart about your emotions. They're like, what? They just happen, right? Like, no, they don't just happen. And yes, you can do things with them. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Again, it allows us to respond, basically allows us to respond rather than react. What that means is that respond means that I put some thought into it and I have some knowledge of it. I have some awareness of it. I have some acceptance of it. And I decide what I want to do, how I want to respond to what's happening, as opposed to reacting where I just am knee-jerk reaction. I'm just doing what whole too much feeling. Sometimes we can have too much feeling and we just react to what's happening, and that doesn't usually go very well. What does go better is to be able to respond, which means that we put some thought into it, we put our feelings into it, we put them together, we balanced them, and we went, okay, this is what I'm going to do. We took charge of our lives. It's intentional, it's intuitive, and it is we get much better results that way. Surprise, huh? So EQ is about studying ourselves. It's a meta study, I call it a meta study. It's our studying me. It's me studying me. It's me studying me. How we function. How do I function? What's going on inside of me? How do I deal with me? How do I deal with me? And how do I deal with you? How do I deal with other people? And how do I deal with teams and family and groups and that sort of thing? So there's different levels to it, but it's basically me studying me. All right. We call it the left brain is, we're talking about logic versus emotion. Metacognition means thinking about what we're thinking about, and meta emotion, which I'm not sure is actually a word, I think I might have made it up, is feeling about what we're feeling about. Right. We want to know what's going on inside of us. We got to study it a little bit and think about it and consider it and do it different if we need to, if we want to. So it's about us studying ourselves. There's so many benefits to emotional intelligence. There's so many benefits, you guys. It's incredible. It gives us choices. It gives us freedom, which I love. Freedom. I love freedom. I love control. I like choices. I like personal power. I like to be able to respond in ways that work, that are not necessarily the normal way, but are powerful, effective ways. Emotional intelligence gives us that. It gives us the ability to love and to be intimate and to feel alive with who we are. It helps us get better results. Like I said, it helps us be more successful. It helps us lead, helps us be better parents. It helps us be better caregivers to the kids. It helps us, excuse me, it helps us take charge of our own lives and to help other people take charge of theirs. It's a beautiful thing. It helps us with ourselves. We get to have self-esteem and self-care and self-love and find some purpose and find value in who we are. It's beautiful in that way. We can celebrate ourselves. There's 3 different kinds of peace, which I'll also talk about. There's more than 3, but the 3 emotional intelligence can teach us how to find inner peace inside of ourselves, find interpersonal peace between me and you, me and one other person at a time. Social peace, which is a group, and we can, and hopefully this is the point of our nonprofit, is to, if enough of us can figure out how to be emotionally intelligent and how we can create peace in our own lives, maybe if enough people can do that, we can have big peace. We can have big global peace someday. We'll see. We're going to give it a try anyway. So it helps with teams. You hardly ever do things all by yourself, right? So it helps with relationships. It helps with getting things done. It helps our culture. It helps in so many different areas, and it helps us deal with ourselves. And that's the huge part of this whole thing. So many benefits to it. As I mentioned, completely, totally free inside of all of us, all the time. We just need to find out how to use it and figure out how to use it, and then it's ours to use forever. Like all education, it's ours to use forever. Basic components of EQ. It's also called SEL. SEL is in the middle. You'll see social and emotional learning in the school environments, in the academics. It's usually called SEL. You won't see schools teaching EQ. You'll see them teaching SEL, which is very cool. And so it's social emotional learning is what we call it. It starts with self-awareness. Always, we got to start with awareness. That means that I'm aware of me. I know what's going on. I have some idea what I'm thinking and feeling. I have some idea what's happening inside of me. I'm aware of myself. It's also called mindfulness. It's called consciousness. It's called being grounded, that sort of thing. It's being aware of me first. I can't do anything until I'm aware, right? I can't do anything until I'm aware. So always starts with self-awareness. Second, once we're aware, then what are we going to do with it? What are you going to do with all those emotions and all those thoughts? What do you do? So self-management is about dealing with your own inner world, your own self. Next is social awareness, which means being aware of other people. So if I know, the better I know me, the better I can know others. What's happening with others, they make more sense. It seems to make sense to us what other people are doing, and we can have better relationships. We care about our thoughts and our feelings a lot, about our own, and guess what? So do other people. So the next step is relationship skills, and that is about being able to listen to people properly, listening to kids, listening to each other, listen to other parents, listening to authority figures, etc., and being able to create relationships that work for us and are peaceful also. So once we are aware of ourselves, then we're aware of other people, then we can make our relationships happen better. This is not rocket science. Most of this stuff is very simple, but some of it is not easy. It's not easy at all. It's simple, but it ain't easy. So sometimes emotional stuff can be very, very difficult and painful, and so be ready for that. It's okay. And we still have to do it because it's super important. And the last of that is what we is responsible decision making, and that's about using our thoughts, our left brain thoughts, and our right brain feelings, both of them, to make good decisions. If we're just logical, we're trying to just make logical decisions and ignoring our emotions. That's not all the information that our body is giving us. Our body is telling us a lot of good things. Emotions are great information for us. They're data. They're ways of seeing the world, and lots of choices and that sort of thing. And so if we can take into account both our thoughts and our feelings, we get more information and we can make better decisions. That's the theory. I think it's working. It's working for me. Basically, basic components of EQ are just our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, right? We have thoughts, we have feelings, and then we do something with them. That's our actions, our body, right? So that's the very simplest breakdown of it. Reality is that actually there's some steps in between here, which I'll go into, but the basics are that your thoughts, feelings, actions, and that we, as I mentioned, are in charge of all three of those. No one can make us think anything, no one can make us feel anything, and no one can make us do anything without our permission. We decide. Even if someone put a gun to your head, you still get to decide. And that's important. That's really important. So here's a cool graphic that shows it's a obviously oversimplified picture of the brain. We usually focus on the left side, on the left brain in our society and in our schools and all, as we talk about our logic, and we don't talk much about our emotions. We don't talk about our emotions, but they're there, and they are such a huge part of our lives that we want to be able to combine them together and use both sides equally. So intellectual intelligence plus emotional intelligence, whole brain living, I don't know that, LOL, whole brain, whatever. It's using all the information that your body and your mind are giving you, and your heart, to make the best decisions, get the most you can out of life, and help each other, help the kids, be as healthy as we can. The key is to balance, right? It's not that emotions are better than logic. It's not that logic's better than emotion. We need both of them. The way that looks is that when we make decisions, we ask ourselves, does this make sense? Does it make sense logically? And does it feel good, or does it feel right? So we ask ourselves both those questions, And if the yes to both of them, that's probably a decent decision. If something like example would be like our addictions, for example. All right, they feel good, they feel really good, sometimes they feel really good, but they don't make any sense. What are you doing? What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. We got this thing going on here, it doesn't make any sense. So we need to balance them. If we look at that action, or do I need another drink? Do I need to take these drugs? No, I don't need to do that. But it feels good, but it doesn't make any sense. And so we need to make responsible decisions based on both sides of that. Some things make a lot of sense, but they feel awful, and that probably is not a great thing either. So try to balance them. So here's a little guy, a balance guy. I'll keep doing this with my head, but he's doing it with his arms. We are pretty good at IQ. The guy on the left, we're pretty good at IQ because that's what we learn in school, not so good at EQ. And what we're trying to do is increase our EQ, increase our emotions so that we can balance them. And same thing with the kids. The kids are, if we can focus some on their feelings, then and our own, then we can be more balanced. So see if we can do them both. The reality is we're born with very few fears. Fear, anger, and sadness are our big three negative emotions. I'll talk about those more in a minute. But we're born with only very few fears, and no anger, theoretically, no anger at all. So whatever we're now fearing or afraid of or angry about, we kind of made it up along the way. We made it up as we went. We learned it. It's nature versus nurture. It's nature. I mean, it's nurture. Sorry. It's we came up with them as we went along. We picked up these fears. We picked up these angers, and we carry them with us. And it's optional. It's optional. We're not born with them. So we don't have to do that. We can let go of them. And that, again, gives us control and power in our lives. It's a wonderful thing. So we can unlearn things that we don't want to learn, that are not working for us, or that we don't want. For a lot of kids and a lot of us, we are born with pretty high EQ. We're born with very high EQ. Dr. Berman, you have your hand up. Did you interrupt? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, some other thing. We are unable to contact this other resource person, Stephen. Would you have his contact number or something? If you can come in.
He's coming.
Okay.
I talked to him already. He's coming. He's getting coffee.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Please.
Sure. Yep. He's a friend of mine. I've known him since high school, and he's coming. Yeah. Okay. So we're born with high EQ. We just had a granddaughter. She's 3 months old. She's beautiful and so wonderful. Love it to have these kids. And she's very, very happy little person. She's a happy little person. When she has all of her needs met, she's fine. She's calm. She's peaceful. She's smiley. She's loving. She's wonderful when she has all her needs met. But if she doesn't have her needs met, she's unhappy, right? She cries or something if she needs to be changed, or if she's hungry or something, she lets us know. And when she gets her needs met, she goes back to her natural state, which is being calm and happy and peaceful, high emotional intelligence. She's smart about that. It's pretty cool. So what happens with the kids, though, a lot of times is sometimes it's downhill. What I'm saying is it's downhill. It's downhill from there, from where they were born, unfortunately. Sometimes it's due to traumatic things happening. Sometimes it's due to dysfunctional families where they're not getting their needs met, and their kids are not getting hugged. They're not getting cooed. That's the word, like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, that kind of thing turns out to be very, very important. Some parents are very stressed and negative and don't handle their kids' emotions as well as they can. And so the kids stop feeling them and they stop dealing with stuff, and it doesn't work out very well. And other than that, in normal life, sometimes things don't go very well either. And so it's downhill in our societies. Like I said, we don't talk about emotions. And so we get stuck inside of us and we don't know what to do with them. So it doesn't go well. I could say that also that that's the bad news. The good news is it doesn't have to be that way. We can reverse the spiral. We can go back up and we can get some emotional intelligence education, and we can do better with our emotions without too much trouble. Like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy, but they're all teachable skills, Aristotle said, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. I think that's a little bit severe, but you get the idea. We need to learn both sides of our brain, and we need to learn about our thoughts and our feelings. Here's the good news. We are in control. Here's the very, very best news maybe you ever hear. The best news I ever heard. No matter what happens outside of us, we have the power to control what happens inside of us. To me, that is fantastic. And if we can teach kids that as well, nobody made us do that. Nobody made me angry. Those kids didn't make me angry. Those kids didn't hurt my feelings. They didn't do it to me. They did what they did. I then took that in a way that hurt, or I took it in a way that made me angry, right? Or made me sad. I took it that way. They did what they did, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Probably we don't have that much control over what's happening outside of us, but we do have inside, and so we can control things inside of us. That's a beautiful thing to me. It all starts with inner peace. This is kind of the goal to the whole thing. Here we go. EQ is the tools that we use. Emotional intelligence and using our emotions properly are the tools that we use. Peace is the goal. What we're looking for is to get some peace inside of us and around us, right? And we are using emotional intelligence as the key to work in peace. That's the point of our nonprofit, EQ for Peace. That's why it's called that. And and it's working. It's working. People are finding some peace in and around them. We'll see if we can pull it off as far as big peace goes. We'll see. But at least in little peace, it's being very effective. It's being very effective inside and around in our small circles with people. So it all starts with inner peace with ourselves first. We're probably not going to have the best relationships if we're not peaceful inside of ourselves. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about ourselves first, getting the goals of EQ. Inner peace begins the moment you choose not to allow another person or event to control your emotions. All right, just kind of what I was just saying, that whatever happens outside of us, that's outside of us. What we do with that is up to us. And that is the first step to inner peace, is being able to know that I get to be in charge of me. And so I can be peaceful in knowing that they're not doing it to me. I'm doing this to myself, and I can change it. I can change it. I can fix it. I can do better. The assumption is that emotions, your thoughts, feelings, and actions can lead to inner peace. Do you agree? Can you? Do you think you can? That's the basic assumption here. If not, we're in trouble. But maybe, do you agree? Let's see. So again, inner peace, interpersonal peace, we, social peace, us, all of us. That's what we're going for. And same with the kids, same with each other, is that we are trying to be calm inside of ourselves and be loving and grounded and calm and satisfied, etc., inside of us, and create that in our lives and create it in and around us. So same with the kids. We're calling it positive mental health, because mental health is a very popular subject these days because it's going very, very badly. Mental health has kind of a negative connotation to it. And so we're saying, no, there's a positive to it too. There's a positive mental health, like positive psychology, right? Positive psychology said for many, many years, psychology was about doing therapy, was about getting people from their problem state, which I'll call negative, back to normal, which is kind of zero. We go from negative to zero. And that was the objective of therapy and mental health, was to get people back to normal, right? Well, I'm saying, and we're saying, when we're finding that we can do better than that. We can actually do better than that. We don't have to get back to just normal. We can be excellent. We can be successful. We can be loving. We can be wonderful. We can have powerful, fulfilling lives, not just normal, but excellent lives. And we can do that by learning about ourselves and learning about our emotional intelligence inside of us and how it works with other people. So we're calling it positive mental health, and it's catching on, and I think, and I'm very happy about that. So we can do better. We can learn how to deal. The bottom part says we can learn how to deal with the down, which the negatives, our fear, our anger, our sadness, our anxiety, depression, stress, all that kind of stuff. We learn how to deal with that stuff in powerful ways. We can actually come back up to normal and keep going and get up to love and peace and joy and satisfaction and all kind of good stuff, right? We can do better than just normal, says I. So, okay, so that little introduction on emotional intelligence. I know I'm going fast and talking fast, and it might be hard to understand me. I apologize, but I've got so much to say. I've got hundreds and hundreds of slides. I got them down to try to get them down to an hour, and we'll see if I can pull it off. But that's why I'm going so fast. But there's again, this is not. It's not particularly complicated, but there's a lot to it, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different things about it that need to be learned and need to be expressed and need to be practiced, etc. So let's talk about some of the practical uses of emotional intelligence. So the 3 steps practically are awareness first. Like I said, we can't do anything until we're aware. So, oh, look, I'm thinking something or I'm feeling something. Awareness, right? Mindfulness, just being aware of it. That's all. Second, acceptance. This is a big deal. This is a very big deal. We found that this is one of the biggest deals of this whole thing, because after you're aware, because a lot of people, most of us in our cultures and our society, we deny it. We don't talk about them. We don't understand them. We don't accept responsibility for who and what we are, and we don't accept that we made our emotions and we made our thoughts. We made them, all of them, every one of them, every single one of them, not some of them, all of them. We made them, and we can manage them. So that's a wonderful thing. So that's about accepting emotional responsibility, right? I call it emotional responsibility. So accept that what's happening. We're accepting that we're having a thought and a feeling. We're not denying it. We're not lying about it. We're not drinking over it. We're not doing any of this stuff. We're just accept it. You just accept it. You can fight it if you want to, or you can go, okay, yeah, I'm feeling that. Okay, that's it. Okay, that's why it takes that long, split second. And then third is, okay, so we have awareness first. Okay, I'm aware that I thought something, and felt something. I accept that. I accept that. And now what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do about it? Am I going to take some action or not about that? Am I? And I get to decide. Here we are back to my control again. I get to decide what I'm going to do with it and what I'm going to do about it, which are different. And do it or not do it. Sometimes with strong emotions, not doing something is a really good idea. No action is a good action. No action is a good action sometimes. And so it's important for us to be, but we're in charge, right? And we're going to say, I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm not going to attack back when someone says something. I am not going to express my anger all over my boss or my teacher or my kids. I'm not going to. So I'm deciding not to take an action. Who's in charge when you do that? Who's in charge when you do that? Me, right? Me. I'm not doing it because I can't. I'm doing it because I won't. And that is a big difference. That is a huge difference in our lives. It gives us power and control again. So we have a hand raised. Did you want to say something, Emmanuel? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay, so this is, like I said, if you don't get anything from this talk, this is the one biggest thing of this whole thing, is that we are in charge of ourselves. They're our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our decisions, our actions, Ours. We decided them. We created them. We can manage them. You're in charge. Yay, right? So here it is, broke down a little bit further. The way it works is that first, stuff happens, right? If you get out of bed in the morning, stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to happen. It just does, right? Even if you don't get out of bed, stuff's going to happen. So events happen outside of us. Things happen outside of us. They just do, right? Okay. We then have a thought and a feeling, right? We have thoughts and feelings about what's happening. What we just did is we took what's happening outside of us and we brought it inside. Guess what? It's now ours. Now it's our problem. From here on, it's our problem, not theirs, ours. So once we had a thought and feeling about it, now we got to deal with that because it's our problem. So now it's inside, okay? We just took the outside and made it inside, or not, but we did that, all right? So now that it's inside, we become aware of it. Like I was just saying, we become aware. I saw that. Okay, here, I just had a thought. I just had a feeling. Okay, awareness. Second, acceptance. All right. Yep, I did. Not just, but okay. All right. And accept that that's how it is. That's two of the secrets to this whole thing. We can then, once we accept it and we're not in denial about it and we're not lying about it and that sort of thing, we're just accepting what happened. We can then look at it and go, is that what I want? Is that a feeling I want? Is that a thought that I want? Is that, it's mine? I made it. Do I like it? Is it working for me? Am I going to keep it or no? I can evaluate that from both sides of the view. Does it make sense? And does it feel okay? Does it feel good and feel right? So we can evaluate what happened. Our thoughts and our feelings, we can evaluate them. We can then make a decision about those. What am I going to do with them, if anything? And then number 8 is we can take some action. Now, action, we're going back outside, right? Did stuff happen? We brought it in. We processed it. We worked with it a little bit. We then now it comes back outside into our actions or no actions, right? So now we're inside and outside. This is how it went from out there to inside, and now we're coming back out. A bunch of our actions become who we are and what we do and our behaviors, right? And then that's the results that we get in our lives, and that's how we function, how it happens, how life happens from there on. So I hope you get the idea that it goes outside, inside, and then back outside again. But the inside part, that's our part, and that's the cool part. That's the part we have a ton of control over, and we can help the kids with that as well. This is just kind of sums that up. Our inner world is our thoughts and feelings. Our outer world is our actions and our results, right? So let's talk about some more practical tools that we can use. This is in teaching EQ. This is one of the most popular uses. It's a little exercise that we can do with ourselves, we can do with our kids, we can do with each other, we can do with kids in classes, etc. It's just a check-in. What are you feeling? That simple. What are you feeling? What that does is gives them awareness and acceptance and identification and separation and validation and all kinds of things just by asking, what are you feeling? Oh, and caring, by the way, if you actually care what people are thinking and feeling, they like that. They like that very much. We like it when people ask us, and they like it when people ask them. So ask people, what are you feeling? And you can watch kids, and it gives them the ability to name it and be able to do something with it. It's really cool, and it just takes us a couple seconds. Here's some words that you can use to be helpful if they're having trouble trying to name what they're feeling. There's lots of these graphics I have on different faces: happy face, sad face, smiley face, frustrated face, angry face, right? All that kind of thing. You can do it by pictures, or you can do it with words. Depends on what the kids' level of understanding and ability to read or whatever. So what that does is, oh, by the way, if you do the check-in, you don't say, how are you? That's a very common. People, hey, how's it going? How are you? People will almost always answer, in my experience, with how they're feeling physically. If you say, how are you? They'll say, oh, I don't feel very good today, or I'm tired, or my leg hurts, or whatever it is. They'll tell you what they're feeling physically. Instead of saying, how are you, try what are you feeling? Exactly this. What are you feeling? And then people are like, oh, and they got to think about it for a second, and you'll get a much better answer usually. So what are you feeling? It helps. Since we are born with so few fears and angers, and because it's our natural state is peaceful and loving and calm, the negatives that we are carrying that end up on top of us are then put on top of the positives. The negatives come and are put on top of the positives. And what our role is, and one of our skills is to be able to remove the negatives, and so our positives can come back out again naturally. So to get back to the positives, we need to learn how to release and let go of negative emotions. Okay, and which I'll talk about in a minute, but a lot of that has to do with just talking about them. One of the probably number one way of getting rid of negative emotions is to talk about them and to release them in a way that you express them out of your body by talking or by making sounds or movements or whatever, and to allow it, accept it, and express it out. And it's kind of magical how that can relieve us of the negatives, and we get back, and it allows the positives to bubble back up again and become more our natural state, because the positives are our natural state. So we need to learn how to deal with our negative emotions so that we can have more positive emotions. Pretty cool, right? Simple, not easy. Again, simple, not easy. Oh, feel it to heal it, I call it. I like to make little acronyms. Feel it to heal it. So that means if you're upset about something, be upset for a minute and let yourself be upset for a minute. Just let yourself be upset for a minute. And then take a big breath. And you get back to like, okay, all right. You can deal with some of your emotions and get back to the positives. We found it very, very helpful to have a big vocabulary of feeling words. This link gives like 4 or 5, I think they're up to over 5,000 words in English that are feeling related, right? Very helpful to have a really good vocabulary so you can explain to yourself and to others and to kids, and you can hear from the kids, what are you feeling? What real specifically, if you can, it's helpful. And it's also helpful to be able to kind of sum them up into the big 3 negatives. I call them the big 3 are fear, anger, and sadness. Which is it? And it can be more than those. It can be more than one at a time. You can have all 3 at once, but usually it's fear or anger, and sometimes sadness as well. But if we can sum up whatever all these complicated emotions into just these 3, it's like, oh, okay. And the reality is that if we can deal with our fear, our anger, and our sadness, just these 3, if you can deal with all 3 of these, as powerful as our body needs to, there just isn't that much that life can throw at us that we can't handle. To me, that's very good news. That's even more good news. If we can just deal with our fear, anger, and sadness, we can deal with life. We can bring it, we can bring it on. We can be powerful. We can be open. We can be loving. I didn't used to be this way. I used to be real quiet and shut down and kind of shy. And by learning how to deal with my negative emotions, it allows me, this is my opinion, but it allows me, I've allowed myself to be more open and to come to groups like this and stand in front of 200 people and go and say all this and look like an idiot. But I can, if it doesn't go well, I can deal with my negative emotions. That allows me to do way more with my life. I don't have to walk around being afraid because I don't know how to deal with my fear. I do know how to deal with my fear. And so I can walk around being powerful and open and big. I can be big because I can deal with it if it doesn't go well. That's my theory. That's what's working well for me. And I'm enjoying it. So the big 3 positives are, when we get rid of those negatives, are joy, peace, and love. And they're kind of our natural state. And we get good at those too. Get at those too. And it starts with thoughts, though. We're talking about thoughts and feelings, but it starts with our thoughts. The greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. As you think, so shall you be, which means thoughts first. So if you think that the world's trying to get you, if you think people are being mean, if you think all this stuff, then you can the thoughts then become feelings. The thoughts then become feelings. And so if you have a thought that you don't like, you notice it, you accept it, and you go, you know what? I don't like that thought. I'm going to make a new thought. It already happened. The thought already happened, but I'm going to make a new thought that is a better thought, and work with that. And guess what? If you have cooler thoughts, positive thoughts make positive feelings, negative thoughts make negative feelings. Big shocker, right? But it's really important that we be able to replace our negative thoughts with, wow, that was a grumpy thought. Wow, that was a negative thought. And I'm like, I think I'll make a new one. I'm going to adjust it a little bit to make a new one. We do it all day long in school and at work and everything, is to be able to think consciously, and intentionally. And as we do that, we then have better feelings. How about that? Pretty cool, right? So we talk about some interpersonal communications. Interpersonal peace is the goal here. Again, safety. The whole point of this whole this talk and this whole workshop is about safety. And so it starts with emotional safety of ourselves, inside of ourselves, because a lot of us are very judgmental about our thoughts. A lot of us are, we try to hold them down because that's how we were taught, and that we don't see anybody else doing it. And so we keep them inside and we hide them and that sort of thing. And that makes it not safe even for ourselves, with ourselves. We judge our own thoughts and our own feelings. And so if we can make it safe, make me safe with me to start with, then I'm going to have a lot better chance of being safe out there too, right? So safety is very important. That's about respecting ourselves and others. It's about acceptance. You can listen to people. You can accept what's going on. I can accept what's going on inside of me. It doesn't mean I like it. It doesn't mean I even approve of it, but I can accept it because it's happening. It's happening. So acceptance does not mean approval. And always please keep into account that feelings matter a lot. Sometimes they're fleeting and we can let them go, but they do matter, and we do need to take them into account. Safety. If you can make it safe for other people to feel their feelings with you, you become very, very valuable to them. If you can have the kids be able to feel safe with you, to express themselves, to be able to vent. There's a difference between complaining and venting. I don't think I have a slide on this. I should. Complaining and venting. Complaining is they did this to me, and oh, it's awful, and poor me, and yuck, right? I feel worse after I'm done talking about it. So does the person you're talking to. Most of the time, they feel worse. It's complaining has a powerlessness to it. But venting, on the other hand, venting is about, I am angry, or I am sad about this, and I don't want to be, and I'm just gonna release it. Let me talk about it for just a minute, and as I talk about it, I release it out of my body. I take it out of my neck or my back or my shoulders or wherever I carry all this, and I let it go, and I'm venting it out. I'm not going on to anybody. It's just out of me. And then I can have some peace. Then I can fill back up with the positives. So check out the difference between complaining and venting, releasing your negative emotions. And then, like I said, when we release our negatives, we're back to the positives kind of magically, and it's pretty cool. Empathy. We have groups. I run a bunch of groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, about 20, I think. The biggest one there, the biggest question was, what's the number one skill for emotional intelligence? Empathy, by far, number one skill for emotional intelligence. Being able to understand, or being able to appreciate, or being able to accept that other people are feeling stuff too, just like we do. And if you want to have a relationship with other people, you need to have some empathy for them, care a little bit. You got to open up a little bit, which means you got to deal with your own emotions, etc. So empathy is a huge part of this. And that starts with, as I've said a number of times here, me first. I hate to make it sound like we're self-centered, but it kind of is. So if I have empathy for me, I can understand what I've been through and what I'm hurting about, or what I'm sad about, or what I'm angry about, that kind of thing. Then I can let that go and be happier, first off. And second off, it helps me understand other people a whole lot better. If I understand me and have care and concern for myself, I'm undoubtedly going to have more empathy for others, right? We can focus on others. We can listen with soul. I'll talk about that in a minute. We can value curiosity. That means like, well, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? Here's one of my favorite questions when somebody has a big negative emotions is you say, what was the thought you had right before you felt that? Remember I said thoughts first. What was the thought you had right before you felt that? Because that's where the problem is. That's where you can adjust things. That's where you can, where you have a lot of control. What's the thought behind the feeling? Works really well. But just you do it as from curiosity. It's not what's wrong with you? What's up with that? Or, it's not judgmental. It's more, and the next one, suspending judgment. It's about curious, like, what did your brain do? What did your body do? How is your heart work? How does it work for you? It's curious, curiosity and wonder. I like that term. We speak carefully and mindfully. Be careful about putting judgments on people. Be careful of I should, you should. Be careful of what was the other one? Fixing things. Sometimes people want you to fix things. Sometimes they do not want you to fix them. They just want to be heard. A lot of times, and if you're going off being a good adult and being a good parent, I'll fix this for you. It does not helpful. That doesn't mean that they felt heard and then they can't fix it on their own. They probably don't need it to be fixed. They probably understand what's going on. They just need someone to listen to them and care a little bit. Empathy. They just want somebody to care and be connected with them. A lot of the times they're not looking for a fix. Ask. If you want to fix it, ask them. Are you looking for solutions for this, or do you just want to be heard? It's a great question. And people often say, no, I just want you to hear me. I'll figure it out on my own. I just want you to care and be there with me. It's a beautiful thing. I don't want to feel alone with this. I don't want to feel alone. That's probably the biggest thing with COVIDs, with the lockdowns and everything, is that people are separated and they feel alone. And us humans do not like being alone. We can be alone, but we don't like being lonely. Let me put it that way. Right? We don't mind being alone, but we don't like being lonely, and being disconnected from people is not going well. So if you can help kids and each other and yourselves feel like you are there for them and they're not alone, then that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful, beautiful skill and service you can provide to people, and love you can provide to people. So, and then appreciate uniqueness. Like, wow, I didn't know, I wouldn't have thought that, but that's wild that you do. Right. Okay. And I've never heard that before, but that's another way to put it. Again, just, wow, that's unique, and people are unique. That's okay. It's neat. So empathy, there's more about empathy. I think, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try and sum this up pretty quickly. Here we go.
I think we need to.
Whoa, no, I got all the way down here.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yep, that's right. Yep. Okay, so there's 3 types of empathy. I'll give you this. I'll provide this, Dr. Berman. I'll provide my PowerPoint at the end. You can share it with everybody if you like. And there's a bunch of resources at the end, but I'm not going to be able to get through all of it. Check out who your role models were.
We also like your contact. We also like your contact number, so that we can talk to you later.
Okay,
and email. Yeah.
Great. It's on the last slide. It's on there. Okay. You got it. Find a buddy, find someone to help you, find someone to work with you, to to be accountable, to share, to joy, so you don't feel alone and they don't feel alone, and find a buddy to help you do whatever you're doing. We can open or close our heart. It's one of our main relationship skills with emotional intelligence. We get to decide how open we're going to be or how closed we're going to be. It's a beautiful thing. Listening, like I was saying, is one of the most wonderful, loving things you can do for someone, is to shut up and listen to them and actually care what they're thinking and feeling. It's one of the most powerful relationship building things you can do, is to listen. Shut up and listen, I call it. Right here it is. Stop, open up, and listen. That's the nice way to put it. The S can be for soul, S-O-U-L. Stop or shut up, close your mouth, open your heart, and listen or love them. And it's one of the greatest things you can do for anybody ever, in my opinion. Speaking, sharing, intention, words, etc. Boundaries, big deal for emotional intelligence. These are some of the things we don't do. We don't use put downs. We don't do name calling. We don't use sarcasm or judgments or threats or any of that stuff. Guilt trips, commands. That's not good communication skills. Good communication skills is about I messages. I feel, I think, I want, I believe, I understand, I expected, I would like. It sounds self-centered, but y'all, we really actually know is about ourselves, not about them. It's not you did this to me. It's not you are blah, 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 blah. It's I felt this when you did that. I felt that. I'm responsible. I messages. I'm talking about me, right? So let's recap. Awareness, acceptance, action. We have thoughts, we have feelings. They're our thoughts, except they're our thoughts and feelings, and we can do something with them. There are actions. So take away from this, again, number one, biggest one, accept most responsibility that they're ours. Live it, show it, model it, do it with the kids. Show they need to see role model, not just tell them what they should do, but to do it and be an example for them. And then share, because a lot of people, like I said, we don't learn this stuff in school. So please share what you learned about emotional intelligence. I call it each one teach one. All right. We decide, here's some takeaways, share resources. Here's a bunch of links. And then here is, join us in our emotional intelligence. This is our nonprofit, and we want to get emotional education in schools everywhere around the world. So that's what we're trying to do. And here's my contact information, and I'm done. There we go. I did it.
There's a question in the chat box. There's a question in the chat box.
Okay. All right. I'm looking. Please explain the point of point of emotional safety. Okay. The point is that we are trying to make it safe for the kids to express, and for us to express, for us to be have a place where we can feel safe in being ourselves, in being real, being genuine, being open, being loving, being ourselves. And that we'd have to have some safe place to do that. Otherwise we keep it to ourselves. And a lot of times it's doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. So emotional safety is a huge part of this whole thing, and we could do it for ourselves and we could do it for others. Any more questions or any more comments?
That was great. That was great. That's a huge huge subject brought in. It is. It was really difficult. I understand. Well, we won't be.
We've got a question as any emotion.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
We won't be able to take questions at this hour because whereas in the USA you are getting warmer and we are getting colder out here.
Okay, I understand.
So a huge.
Come India, come India. Sir, come India.
I understand.
Yeah. So please pay us a visit out here. You would know like how we work here in such difficult conditions, and that from that hamlet town where they are working, and they have done so many international series for the last 1 year, whereas hardly anyone around is doing anything. And with hardly any infrastructure around, with any funds around, they've been able to you know, so much people are being helped. So I'm thankful to them that they're really doing. And thank you once again for being with us. Please do come over to India once and then pay us a visit. We shall be really grateful.
Sir, একবার PPT-টা first sir পাঠাতে একটু বলবেন স্যার।
Yeah, the PPT. The PPT, how will you send the PPT? Shall we give an email ID or whatever?
I'll put it on a Google Drive and I'll put it in the chat, the link to the Google Drive, and so you can download it if you want to. How's that?
In the Google Drive.
Yeah.
Have you given the ID out there?
I will in a minute. Well, Dr. O is getting on, and so while he's talking, I'll do it again. I'll do it then. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can I share my screen here?
Yeah.
Right.
If you could allow me,
Yeah, you are a co-host.
okay, can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening from our side. Doctor. And good morning to USA. I know it must be pretty cold even now. It must be morning around 6 a.m. or so out there. And Merry Christmas. Thank you for being with us. For us, it's evening, 6:35 in the evening, Indian Standard Time, and yours must be around 5:30 a.m. in the morning. So, हमारा साथ है डॉक्टर स्टीवन ओलिवर। उन्होंने PhD किया है एजुकेशन के ऊपर। He's from University of Pennsylvania, USA, and he'll be talking on creating safety for children in a pediatric healthcare environment with a family faculty. So thank you, sir, for being with us tonight. And may I request you to kindly start the proceedings, and at the end, if you can also give us your contact number, your WhatsApp and email ID towards the end. So, and if you can, make it full screen, this PPT.
Let's see here.
Slideshow, yes, from beginning, from start, on the left. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Okay.
Okay, well, good evening to all of you and good morning here. My name is Stephen Oliver, as Dr. Berman just introduced me, and greetings to everyone. Thank you so much, the Rehabilitation Council of India, for inviting me to speak. Thank you, Dr. Khalid, very much. Thank you, Dr. Berman, and thank you, Matt Pearlstein, and thank you all of the distinguished guests who are here today. I really appreciate it. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. I'm actually right now visiting Washington, D.C. I live in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is 2 hours north of Washington, D.C., 2 hours south of New York City. And I just have finished celebrating Christmas with my family. So Merry Christmas to everyone. And then a Happy New Year, as we're a week away from the new year, 2020. So Happy New Year to all of you. And I wish you the best for 2022. I know we all are ready for something exciting. So it's my pleasure to be here this morning, or actually this evening for you. I realize I'm your last speaker, so I'll try to go as quickly as I can and try to convey my message to you, because I know that you are ready to finish your day and your evening from your conference. I hope you had a success. I just want to talk a little bit about my experiences working in a pediatric environment. A few years ago, I worked for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was the manager of human resources training and development. And I and my staff did a lot of training for nurses, doctors, allied health, and administrative staff, and then also those workers who helped to support the children and their family. We did a lot of behavioral training. We did a lot of customer service, which is patient satisfaction, conflict resolutions, emotional intelligence, communication skills, team building. These are the soft social skills that so many need. We have really brilliant clinicians, nurses, the best pediatric folks in the world that work for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They're excellent at their clinical and technical abilities, but they need help with some of the basic fundamental skills. So what I wanted to do is just briefly review some of the things that have happened in COVID in the past 2 years. Children have been hit the hardest by a lot of what's happened with COVID. And then tell you a little bit about my experience working in training and how this pediatric institution worked to create safety. I will touch briefly on the state laws. We have many states in the United States and all have laws around protecting children. The family faculty, and I'll explain who those family faculty members are, partnering with parents of children for training to help the staff at the hospital better understand the care and service that's being delivered, and then just give you an overview of basic training solutions that we did. Now, I'll do briefly a little bit on emotional intelligence. That's what Matt Perlstein talked about. Customer service, dealing with the angry patient, and bullying. So that's a lot for a quick hour. Again, I'll try to go quickly and go through this. So as all of you may know, our world has changed dramatically in the past 2 years with COVID. And just when we thought we were getting relief this fall, we thought things were going back to normal, this Omicron variant happened. This Omicron variant came, and it's really frustrated everyone again. Back to masks, back to vaccines. Many have lost loved ones, and this certainly has impacted people's own personal health. Things have not gone the way we thought they would. In America, and I know in India, that there are people who've lost jobs, especially in the service sectors, restaurants, hotels, travel. Travel's out of control. I had a good friend going to Japan yesterday, but he decided not to because of the variant. He decided not to travel. Flights have been canceled. And so much has changed, and especially in our economy. Supply chain has slowed down delivery of services, delivery of goods and products to healthcare and hospitals. Violence has sparked in airlines, cities, and on the streets of the cities in America. We have so much violence. And again, people have lost families because of COVID and not socializing as much. These are really sad statistics and scary. The city I live in, Philadelphia, has had 500 murders in 2021. New York City, 400. Baltimore, Maryland, around 200. And Washington, D.C., 300. So that's a lot of murders, and that's very scary that violence has increased. Now, not all of that is due to COVID, but some of it is. There have been 814 deaths due to COVID in the United States, 479 deaths in India, and worldwide 5.39 million. So that's a lot of deaths in our world because of COVID. But as I mentioned earlier, children have been hit the hardest. A lot of studies that are out there are showing that children have been impacted so much by the pandemic. Children are going to homeschooling, working online in an online environment. Now, I teach at the University of Pennsylvania online, but that's a different story for adults. I have adult college students, but for children, it's really hard. This has created confusion, hard to study, behavioral problems, depression, anxiety, and even conflict with other students, parents, the teachers. So it's been very frustrating for children. Pardon me just a moment here. There's been a disruption in education. And this is what I thought was so striking when we review what's happened in our world in the past 2 years. 1.6 billion students over in 190 countries have experienced these disruption in their children's education, or students. 24 million children and youth, including more than 11 million girls, have dropped out permanently due to the pandemic. And this is what makes me the most sad, is the digital divide. We see this in the city of Philadelphia amongst our poorer residents and their children. 2/3 of school-age children worldwide have no access to the internet at home, or unable to attend classes. And so we see this digital divide. Children really need to be in the live classroom. And I imagine many of you have worked with children in that arena. A quick story. So during the pandemic this year, when we were getting vaccinated, we had the honor and privilege of being vaccinated in Philadelphia and in America. And I volunteered for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to help teachers get vaccinated. Teachers, police officers were some of the first to get vaccinated. And so I am not a nurse, I'm not a clinician, but I was there to help navigate the flow. During the day, there were 500 patients, 500 teachers going through the line, and I helped navigate them, all the teachers, to the different nurses giving the vaccines. And so when I talked to the nurses, the teachers, as they were in line with me waiting to get their vaccine, they told me about their observations of children in the classroom. Now, first it was online. Well, first it was in the classroom, then online, and then some were going back. But they told me that the students were sad, depressed. They were tired. They were worn out. They were disengaged. Some were happy, one or two. They were not at their computers, or they were asleep at their computers. They were hard to respond to online learning. It was very tough to engage children in online learning. Distracted, bored, not answering questions, not doing their homework, and having, again, challenges with other students, parents, teachers. The parents were frustrated. And so one by one, these teachers were sharing these stories with me. Now, when we look at mental health challenges for children, a Canadian study gives this quote: mental health challenges in children, adolescents, young adults are real, widespread, but they mostly are important, and they can be treatable and are often preventable. In the same study, the Canadian study by Murtha is one of the authors, talks about psychological distress, anxiety, depression, mental health disorders. And in their study of 80,000 youth, they looked at depressive and anxiety symptoms during the pandemic. 25% of youth experiencing these depressive symptoms, with 20% going over anxiety. Just real quickly, I think I see a hand raised. Was there a question? Okay, I don't see a question, so I'll move forward. So the goal here is, how do we combat some of this mental health? And part of this is to create a safe space in a pediatric environment, hospital, healthcare organizations. So this is part of it. And some of the things that pediatric organizations do is to try to create a safe space for this anxiety. Now, there is an organization in the United States called the Child Health Patient Safety Organization, and it helps to enable Children's Hospital to share safety, share information, experiences to help to make a safer space and prevent harm. Some of the benefits and services are safety and a quality child health care in that delivery. And this can connect to the clinicians, doctors, nurses, and other clinical folks in a pediatric environment to help to reduce the risks and hazards associated with patient care. So part of this is behavioral. Another part of this is the actual hazards of healthcare delivery. And so this organization is designed to do this. Now, another piece of this is adhering to law. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 50 states, and what is so important is to make sure that when you're in a children's pediatric organization, that you're adhering to the state law. I live in the state of Pennsylvania. And so in the state of Pennsylvania, there are many background checks. So when I go to work there, I have to go to get my fingerprints, printed, send it to the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, and then they run a background check. There's a lot of folks in America who have abused children. And so they want to make sure that I have no abuses, and it works for everyone who works there. So the Department of Human Services Child Abuse clearance is there. The Pennsylvania State Police requests for criminal records, and they're looking for child abuse and want to have clearance. So if you want to work in a pediatric environment, you must go through this and then adhere to the laws of not abusing children, not harming children. Here are just some types of abuse that can occur with children. I'm not going to go into details of this. I'm not an expert on this, but these are some of the things that they are looking for in this. They are looking for physical abuse with children. Pardon me just a moment. Let me go back. All right. Making sure that there's no physical abuse, physical harm to children as they come into the hospital. Emotional, the emotional and psychological abuse. And many of you who are in pediatric psychology work with this. Neglect, failure to meet the child's physical and psychological needs. This to me is horrifying, but sexual abuse. This certainly can happen to children in America and around the world, making sure that doesn't occur. And then bullying, to make sure that staff, the physicians, the doctors, the clinicians, parents, families are not being negative and abusive. I actually could give an entire presentation on bullying. To me, that could be a conference on bullying. Bullying is rampant everywhere, in schools, in colleges, in the workplace, but that's a whole nother story. But, working with the laws, the state laws of Pennsylvania and the other states in the United States, it's about making sure that we're safeguarding children from abuse and that no one has a history or record of this in their background. So, other things to tell you. So, in my time at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, I worked in human resources. I was a corporate trainer, as I said, standing up in front of staff live. This is before online and during online as it started, but working with the staff to have training programs, behavioral programs about helping to improve service, helping to improve safety for children. Now, in healthcare, in hospitals, service is key. Patient satisfaction, and many hospitals in America are judged and valued by patient satisfaction. And there are typically surveys that are given to every family, every parent, as they leave the hospital, and even during their time as the child stay in the hospital, to see how the services are. And they look at the services of doctors, nurses, allied health, radiology, respiratory, phlebotomy, psychology, social work, food, security, housekeeping, maintenance, human resources. They evaluate all of us. How was their experience? How did it go? And again, this is a whole nother course I could just go on and teach all day long about customer satisfaction. I'll touch on that in just a moment. But customer satisfaction is about how people are happy with their services and did they feel like they had a good experience. And in the city of Philadelphia, there are 5 main hospital systems. People have a choice. They can go to another system if they are not happy with their services. So this is really important to be aware of this, is to be aware of this service training. This is one of the ways that I work towards helping towards safety. And I also work with the family faculty, who I'll tell you about in just a minute here. These are parents of those who were had children, and I'll tell you about them just in a moment. And the service training worked with the frustrating and looked at how it could be impactful on staff. Now, real quickly, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the mission of that, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. It's the oldest hospital, the oldest pediatric hospital in the United States, dedicated to exclusively to pediatrics, strives to be the world leader in advancement of healthcare for children by integrating excellent patient care, innovative research, quality of professional education into all its programs. And this is something that we led with at every single training program. By going back to our mission, this helps to reaffirm who we were. Ultimately, this helps with safety. If you can stick by your mission statement, that helps with safety. Now, I worked in this organization, and it was called a family-centered care. You know, so much of healthcare is delivered to the patient and in the adult environment, and you not necessarily take or include the family. But here at the Children's Hospital, they recognize the impact, the well-being of the child from their family. So much of the care delivery is connected to the children and how they connect with their parents and their other siblings, cousins, relatives, and even people in the community who show up. And so it's important to make sure that you focus on the family, and the family is important in this family-centered care environment. Now, I worked with the family faculty. As a corporate trainer, we incorporated the family faculty. Who were the family faculty? Well, these were comprised of adults, members of the child's family. You know, folks, at the Children's Hospital, predominantly children who came to the hospital were acute, very sick, very ill, many with cancer. Now, there were well care, all other types of outpatient services, and those were, you know, a cough, a cold, spraining an ankle, breaking an arm, some of the basic things that are well care. But at the main hospital was the acute care. Family faculty were parents of children who were in the acute care environment, and they were there for a longer period of time. And so they interacted with us in human resources, medical students, physicians, nurses, support staff, administrator, non-clinical staff, and new employees at the Children's Hospital. And they worked in collaboration to talk about their stories. The way it worked is they would come into our training programs. We're talking about service, improving service. And they would come in and they would talk about their story, what happened to their child. Some of the parents were hired as part-time employees, and they would talk about that story and give a real impact to staff that this is real. This is a real thing that happened. These members were ethnic in diverse in ethnicity, culture, and background, and they had different types of services. I worked with one mother and her two children who had cystic fibrosis, which is a lung disease. She had 3 children, 2 had cystic fibrosis, and she would come into the training program at the beginning as I started, and she would tell the story of her experience. The goal of the family faculty is to help navigate newer families into this healthcare system. Going into healthcare is very complicated, and it can help when you are help parents navigate through the healthcare system. You know, folks, it is really tough when you are sick and you are not feeling well. You're not in control of your own health, and you can be very upset and depressed. But it's worse with children. When you're not in control of your child's health, then that can be really, really discerning. Parents are not in their best mood, not in their best form. So in partnering with the parents, we help to partner with healthcare delivery. create a safer environment, safer patient care, checking on the children, checking in with them, making them feel welcomed, allow them to reduce their stress, their anger, their anxiety. So many parents are so angry about this and they're so frustrated. And then we help the kids and families to partner with their healthcare delivery. Many studies show that if you're involved in your own healthcare delivery, the chance of you getting well are much higher. And ultimately, this works with the emotional state of the child and their particular outcomes. And the benefits of working with the parent, the family, faculty is to, again, help with safety issues, help to understand what's going on in that parent's in their life, to walk in their shoes, to understand where they're coming from. So when that parent sounds unreasonable, angry, frustrated, when the parents try to bully the healthcare providers, the nurses, we can understand that better because of their fear, and help with safety issues, and treat the patients with respect, dignity, diversity, creating this sense of urgency on helping them. And involving the kids, giving this customer service. Now, a little bit about what I wanted to talk about very quickly now, I know my time is ticking away fast, are some basic forms of training that I did that ultimately helped with the emotional intelligence and the safety of the kids in the hospital. So we talked about customer service, patient care, actively listening to the kids, being observant and aware of any issues, trauma, abuse, neglect, and the emotional issues, and looking at the family members as they come in. Now, Matt just gave you a whole overview of emotional intelligence, so I won't go deep into that, but this is one of the first trainings that we did, is to try for our staff to be aware of emotional intelligence. Another study talks about emotional intelligence in the role of medicine, nursing, and other healthcare profession. And it suggests that emotional intelligence is important for effective practice, particularly in respect to delivering patient-centered care, or in our case, family-centered care. So by using good emotional intelligence, or EQ, you can help with your effective care for delivering service. And this can be applied in enhancing the quality of patient-centered care directly and indirectly. So emotional intelligence training, it can help with pediatric organization to help the staff better understand themselves and their moods, and to better understand the patients and families. Again, it's so critical to include families in this care delivery here, and ultimately with safety. I want to read you a very quick definition of emotional intelligence by Dr. Daniel Goleman. Dr. Goleman is a clinical psychologist from Harvard University and a commercial author, public speaker in his own organization. I love this definition. Emotional intelligence is the capability of individuals to recognize their own emotions, those of others, discern between the different feelings, and label them appropriately. Use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior, and manage and or adjust emotions to adapt to their environments or achieve one's goal. To me, this is powerful for the healthcare provider to understand the emotions of the child, discern between different feelings, label them. Matt talked about our emotions and discerning from them, and then use that emotional thinking to guide and adjust your behavior and your delivery of care to the patient. Now, your emotional quotient. There was a question earlier from someone as Matt finished his presentation, and someone asked, I saw it, what's the difference between your IQ and your EQ? Great question. Your IQ is your intelligence quotient. It's your cognitive ability, typically measured at a younger age, and it remains stable throughout your life. but your emotional quotient, your EQ, is measuring your emotions and feelings. And hopefully that grows throughout your life. It helps you with coping, flexibility, adaptability, empathy, and awareness, dealing with the pressures and demands of life, and controlling your thoughts and actions. And this to me is really important for healthcare. How do we cope, become flexible as things change in a healthcare environment or with the patient, adapt? And empathy. Empathy is so powerful. I agree with Matt. So the 4 competencies which he went over are self-awareness, self-management and self-regulation, social awareness, relationship management, and social skills. This is part of what we taught to staff. We taught this to them so they can begin to think about their emotions as they're delivering care. Whether they're a front office person checking in parents, billing, trying to get the bills coordinated with the healthcare, the insurance. I mean, God, that's frustrating. So the first 2 are your personal competence. How do you know yourself? How do you regulate and manage your emotions and what you say? And that's where some of the biggest conflict occurs in the pediatric environment. The conflict between staff members is huge. And then the next is your social competency, social awareness, being aware of others. As Matt said, empathy is most important here. And how do you deal with others? And then the relationships. How do you bring people together, work together to influence? All these skills are helpful for healthcare professionals to be more aware of themselves and others, work towards patient safety and child welfare. So again, this was one topic that I taught and trained. I still do. I still teach an entire academic course on emotional intelligence, but a good emotional intelligence can have positive effects. There are also a study from Regis College that doctors look for creative solution and patients and help to for all to give directions to them by using their emotional intelligence. They can work together. Empathy exhibited, again, another study, as Matt said, empathy is looking at that others and understanding others. And even if you have a frustrated doctor or nurse, having empathy and walk in their shoes, what was their day like and what happened to them? Why did they get so angry and frustrated? Empathy and assertiveness can function together in independent dimensions and help to negotiate behavior within each. And empathy is a critical emotional intelligence skill, but it involves so much more than just being able to recognize emotions of others, really trying to understand. Now, very quickly, the customer service or patient satisfaction. This may be very elementary, but this was really important for what we taught at the hospital to help towards safety. So to understand the emotional intelligence of working there, again, including that family faculty to come in, tell their stories, talk about what happened to them, and ask the coworkers or ask the staff to try to understand better how they are feeling coming into this pediatric environment and working there and being so angry, frustrated. We would do basic, simple things, fundamental greeting, saying hello. You know, in such a busy environment, you don't even say hello and good morning and good evening. That's sounds so elementary, but it's so powerful. Respect, dealing with difficult people. I have a slide on that in just a moment here, but dealing with difficult people. Service recovery. Now, this means that if something goes wrong, if you make a mistake, to apologize. And it's not easy for many people to apologize. It's so hard for people to apologize. And so that's what's really important, is to apologize. Again, in this particular city, there were many other hospital healthcare systems. People can go somewhere else if they're not happy. We have a choice. Giving and receiving feedback. And again, this is about communication skills. How can I give feedback? How can I actively listen? That's a whole nother set of course that I talk about. But these were just some fundamental, simple things that we taught all of our staff at all levels, from the highest level administrators to physicians to psychologists, all the way down to the frontline staff. it's important to revisit these fundamental skills. When you're at a higher level clinically, you can get away from some of the basics. So I have to just add to what Matt said earlier about nonverbal skills. Nonverbal skills are so powerful. I would walk on my lunch break in the hallways of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I would say hello to parents. Hello, good morning, how are you? How's it going? And they would say, fine, okay. But their nonverbals told me the story. Nonverbals are body language, facial expression, eye rolling, face down, head down, hand movements, feet movement. Even the way you dress is nonverbal, and that can convey how you feel. And so it's so important, especially children, to be aware of their nonverbals. So in our emotional intelligence and in our customer focused training, we really emphasize nonverbal emotions. Nonverbal communication is the transfer of information through the use of body language, eye contact, facial expressions, and gesture. An example, smiling when you meet someone conveys friendliness, acceptance, and openness. By the way, if you look at 100%, 55% of that is nonverbals, 35% is tone, 7 to 10% is words. So when we're communicating with other people, we don't really hear what they're saying. We see how they are with their nonverbals. This is elementary, folks, but it's so critical to go back and look at this and understand this. Understand the nonverbals. This connects to service, safety, and emotional intelligence. So another piece of this is, if there is an angry customer, an angry patient, how can we create the emotion within them? And what you want to do is be upset on the customer's behalf. What you want to do is to try to work really hard to be upset with them. Feel their pain, realize that the problem is important to that customer. Match their tone, be equivalent in your response. Try to be as strong if they are strong toned. And then try to shift out that blame. We all want to blame. When something goes wrong, there needs to be blame. Someone wants to be blamed. So how can we get rid of that blame and work towards problem resolution? And this helps with the frustrated customer or the patient, the child themselves, or the family. How can we shift the blame? How can we work towards solution? Because this helps into safety. Now, active listening is another component of this. And a quick story, in the beginning of this year, 2021, what's really important is I was asked to do a communication skills, hang on one second here. Oops, sorry. I was asked to do a communication skills training for a large government contractor in Trenton, New Jersey. New Jersey is right next to Pennsylvania. Trenton is the state capital of New Jersey. Large government contracting. They dealt with military equipment. They built tires for tanks. Big company, manufacturing, large, a lot of staff. And they asked me to come in and do communication skills, active listening, constructive feedback, giving, receiving. And I talked to the CEO. I said, sir, this is elementary. This is for frontline people. Are you sure that you want me to give this communication skills training? And he said, Stephen, we do not talk to each other. All of our departments and divisions are silos. We don't speak to each other. There's no communication. Start talking, start teaching. And I was like, oh my God. It was like, wow. Again, some of these skills are basic. Hospitals and healthcare work in silos. They are siloed, doctors, nurses, allied health. And a lot of times they don't speak to each other. So for effective safety, communication has to happen. And active listening can be reflecting feelings of your children, asking question, testing for understanding, paraphrasing, rephrasing. So is this what I think I heard you said? Can I rephrase? Can I summarize what we talked about? Watching again for that body language, summarizing, acknowledging. Again, very simplistic stuff here, folks. This is not academically deep or intense. It's very basic corporate training, but it's so important to go back if we're talking about the safety of a child, to listen to what that child is saying, listen to the parents, listen to all those around, even community members coming in to a community. Now, another form of service training that I had is your attitude for service. Of all things, there's this fish company in Seattle, Washington. They sell fish. And what they did is they sell fish to customers. It's called Pike Street Market. If you've ever been to Seattle, Washington, go to the Pike Street Market. It's an open market. And there are these people who sell fish. They created an acronym for service because they wanted to improve service. I bring this into healthcare, and this can truly help in service delivery, but it's all about your own attitude. It's your attitude and how are you showing up in the morning as a clinician, as a healthcare provider, how are you showing up? 4 principles, real simple: be there, play, make their day, choose your attitude. So being there is emotionally present for people, respecting people and being there, listening. We're so busy. My frustration with my own physician as an adult is when she's at the computer typing. And I'm like, doctor, turn around and be there in the moment. Look at me and make my day. Now, play. This may sound really silly, ridiculous, but it's having some form of humor, respectful humor. In healthcare, it's intense. We're dealing with intense stuff, especially with COVID, especially with acutely ill students with cancer. But how can we have some, liveliness, some humor in this? Have some type of creativeness to help the children. You know, one thing that's wonderful about the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, most of the men nurses or doctors wear ties. They wear Disney ties or ties with animals on them. One of my favorite doctors there wears a frog tie. He has different frogs on his tie. They get down on their knees and the frog tie, the children can pull that tie, and it's fun and humorous. And so this is important in delivering service and safety. Making their day. How can you delight people in your service and contributing to someone else's life? Not because you want something, but because you're there to help the person who needs something. And to me, the most important of this acronym is choosing your attitude. We all get up in the morning. You said it's colder in India right now. Well, you might get up, it's nighttime, but you get up for the next day. And how can you choose your attitude to go in and respond? Ask yourself, is my attitude helping my team and my customers, helping me to be the person I want to be, to give the best delivery? Again, a simple acronym, FISH, but it can really, truly be helpful. Be there, play, make their day, choose their attitude. Okay. So a couple of more things as we wind down. I know that my time is working away. So the question to ask is, how do we deal with the unhappy patient or the angry, aggressive family member? That's worse. Dealing with parents are even more frustrating. You know, again, as I mentioned, children are sick and parents are stressed, and so they're not at their best. You're going to see kids and families at their worst. So how do we deal with this when children are sick and emotionally volatile? So here are Adam's 7 rules for dealing with aggressive or angry client. Again, I'm winding up with these simple steps or acronyms just to help you in understanding some simple things that we did in this training that connected to safety. And what we did is work with the managers to follow up after the training. So we want to be clear about what we want to achieve. Be clear about what you want to achieve when your customer is angry or frustrated. What is the solution, the resolution to satisfy? Never ever overpromise. That old cliche of over-promising, under-delivering, that can get you into more trouble. Over-promising and under-delivering. Pardon me. Oops, sorry about that. So that's another one, being careful. Do take responsibility for what you can do. And this is a big challenge in healthcare, accountability. You know, with all the shifts that turn over, people want to push it, the thing that didn't get done, to the other shift. And a lot of healthcare workers don't want to own up to their mistakes. So take responsibility for what you can deliver. Validate the customer's feelings. Validate, yes, I understand you're angry. Understand you're frustrated. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to tell me that. I want to try my best. So I hear you. I'm understanding. I'm listening to you. And I'm trying my best to work with those feelings. Specific information, all right? Really specific, detailed information. A lot of times, kids won't tell you what's really going on. So really trying to ask questions, follow up, probe deeper, and to get as much information about their healthcare, about any dangers that are around them, anything that could unfortunately be happening in their families, especially around abuse. And so try to understand. The more you understand and the more you communicate, it's going to help towards a better resolution. Stay calm and stay focused. And this is not easy, especially in an acute emergency situation. How can we stay calm when confronted with anger and with people? You know, typically there's fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. That happens in our amygdala, in our limbic system, and that's part of the emotional intelligence. And so how can we calm that amygdala down? How can we really try to use those emotional intelligence, that self-regulation, to calm down? And then again, this taking the time to listen, to truly listen to someone else. Now, some other things are, again, walking in the other person's shoes, and taking stock of yourself. How do you feel when you come in the morning? Step back, step away. So those are just some ways to deal with an angry client. So the last thing I wanted to talk about this evening, as I know you're winding down and you are finishing up, but I just want to talk about bullying. And again, bullying is something that's huge in high schools, in elementary schools, colleges, and in healthcare. Bullying is seeking harm, intimidating, coercing. Her 11-year-old son has been constantly bullied. A short story of bullying. I also teach in a nursing program at the University of Pennsylvania. And we were talking about bullying. And one of my nurses said, you know, Professor Oliver, I was bullied by the nursing assistant. And so I thought for a minute, well, wait a minute, you're the nurse, you have the power differential here. How are you bullied by someone who was not at the same level as you? Because a lot of times we think of hierarchy. She said, you know, there was a nursing assistant on who was assigned to another nurse and her patients. I came in, I was overwhelmed. I needed 2 or 3 of my patients to be fed as I came on my evening shift. And this nursing assistant said, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to feed your patients. And I'm not going to do any of this unless you give me what I want. And so that nurse felt very bullied that she could not get help in delivering her care to the patients. So bullying can be intimidating, coercing. Bullying is a serious social issue. It has long effects. It can happen over time to the victim. And the issue here is recognizing, knowing how to address the bullying. And the specifics of bullying entails what might happen in childhood. A child can be bullied throughout his or her life. A child can be bullied in the hospital. A child can be bullied at home, come into the hospital, and then bullied. And so bullying is any type of physical or verbal abuse. And if it happens more than once, there's typically a power imbalance, all right? How is my time? Is it almost over? Just curious what my time is. All right, I just have a couple more slides, so I will finish up here. But again, bullying can be this victim is unable or afraid to defend him or herself. And this is another thing that's important about working in a pediatric environment, to make sure that that child is not bullied or that there's not signs of bullying. 6 minutes left. Okay, almost done. That'll work. Okay, so again, shoving, pushing into lockers, kicking, calling names, making cruel remarks about someone, teasing, threats, social attacks, spreading rumors, sabotaging, cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is really important. Texting, emailing, posting. A child can come in with a cell phone, be in the bed, and be bullied that way. Somebody has their speaker on, so I want to just encourage you to turn that off. So there is the Bullying and Cyberbullying Prevention Advocacy, and this is a groundbreaking collaborative to help with reducing bullying. And so it has a range of services. So you want to be very careful of bullying at work, because this can lead to harm in the child. And be careful from bullying from the families or bullying the child from healthcare workers. The other side of this is make sure the families are not bullied by the healthcare provider, and to make sure. And you know, again, it can be unreasonable parents who have ultimatums or intimidating. So bullying goes all the way around. And so how to deal with the bully is to notice signs, behaviors, actions, listen to the bully, isolate the bully, asking him or her to meet with you in a quiet area. Try to assess the danger of either for the child or the parent or for the staff worker, and tell the bully what you're going to do. If you need to, get security help and offer reasonable options, alternatives. Now, so that pretty much summarizes my presentation. I know I went quickly. I know I gave you a lot of things, but in summary, for a pediatric organization to make things safer for children and improving healthcare outcomes, you want to adhere to the law, adhere to the hospital's policies in procedures, train the staff on customer focus, patient satisfaction, work with emotional intelligence, work with the family faculty, the parents, work with the families, listen, actively listen, and you're trying to create a respectful and diverse environment so you can improve safety and report bullies. So I hope that this was helpful and gave you some insight. I know this was not very academic, but I'm hoping that this was helpful for all of you. And I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to come in. And again, I wish you all the very best in your healthcare delivery, your psychology, and all for the new year. I wish you the very best for the new year.
স্যার শেষ করলো স্যার, একটু দেন ওনাকে থ্যাঙ্কস ইয়ে করে। ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে স্যার।
I'm sorry, I was facing some issues with my laptop. So I was almost out. I could hear everyone, but I couldn't really communicate. So thank you so much, Doctor. It was a wonderful discussion. I believe we have learned a lot from these two discussions, or all the four, in fact, this evening. It's very much in the morning in the States, I know. We would love to have the contact details of doctor. If you could give us your contact details, so we should be able
Yes.
to communicate.
Yes, I'll send these and the PowerPoints.
Okay.
আচ্ছা স্যার জ্যোতি বিকাশ স্যারও আছে স্যার
Okay, wait, just wait. Wait,
স্যার
wait,
একটু
just
বলে দিন একটু আমাদের স্যারদেরকে একটু আমাদের ইন্ডিয়াতে
okay. No, which you recommend?
আহ,
So we'd invite you to India, especially in the Polashbari, where this college is, the Sapna Society and the College for Special Education. You could see for yourself in what from hard conditions in which they are placed and how they are working. It is all less than a hamlet town, hardly any infrastructure, hardly any donations from anywhere. So all those people in a very rural setup, they've been conducting programs for this whole period of the lockdown, and they've been very successful at that. Whereas people, rest of the country, especially these parts of the country, hardly anyone is doing so much. And to get people from the states, to get people from Bangladesh, to get people from the Middle East and all over the country, it's a wonderful job they have done. This was a 3-day program, 3-day international program. We have already contacted 6 of these. We have done 1 national. So we have done these Taposh Bormon, Amitabh Bormon, Ataur Rahman, and all this. They have done a yeoman's job. So we'd like you to be with us. We'd like to contact you also later on. Please do pass on your PPTs and your contact details. We shall love having them. We should be able to communicate with you later on again.
Thank you
We
again.
have
Thank you.
you. So if you give us the Matt Preston is said Oliver Archer. He is also writing, because I am not with a laptop anymore. I'm with the mobile, so it's making it so difficult for me. I can't see everything. We have Mr. Jyoti Bikash Nath with us. Professor Jyoti Bikash Nath is the professor at University of Alipurduar. I'd like him to say a few words. He's also a member of the Shopper Society out here. Jyoti Bikash Babu, if you are there.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure indeed to be a part of such a wonderful webinar. I was just listening, Dr. Stephen Oliver, probably the last speaker.
Yes.
Very wonderful explanation he was giving. And I am sure that such webinar will be a great help to the participants who have come from all over the country, probably, so far I know. And probably about 250 participants are there. And 3 days long, this webinar is going on. And however, I like to convey my thanks and also gratitude to the participants, the resource persons, particularly for the reason that the present topic on which the webinar is going on since last 3 days, it is a very important aspect for the present day world. In the present day world, that is developed technology, I think, is probably the children are the most unsafe at this present moment, I think. Not only due to this technological development, but all other socio-economic and political matters also affect much the children. children, whether they are normal or with disability, but disabled children require much more protection, for which I think such webinar, such discussion all over the India and some resource persons also from abroad, they were speaking. And such an important aspect, important topic, I think. Children, in fact, are the future citizen of every nation, and hence they require safety for the interest of the nation. And naturally, those with disability require much more attention. I am sure that this webinar of 3 days with so many renowned resource persons from our country and also abroad have done a wonderful job, have discussed various aspects of the issue, and all the things I am sure that the participant will be benefited a lot. Naturally, I convey sincere thanks to those resource persons, renowned resource persons, and certainly also to the participant for their eagerness to serve the
স্যারের নেটওয়ার্কের সমস্যা হচ্ছে নাকি? স্যারের নেটওয়ার্কের সমস্যা হচ্ছে নাকি?
হ্যাঁ
আর স্যার আপনি আনমিউট হয়ে যান স্যার। জ্যোতিক বিকাশ স্যার আপনি আনমিউট হয়ে যান।
hello, শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
So naturally, I think this type of webinar or seminar, whatever may be, in this pandemic situation is very much necessary for those who are interested to work for the disabled persons, disabled children. And children, I think, in this situation need much more care. And this webinar with these so many resource persons all over the country and also from abroad, from various parts of the world, have delivered their beautiful suggestions, beautiful speeches, and discussed the issue and its every aspects. So I am sure all the participants will be benefited and they will serve the disabled persons much more better than before. With these few words, I like again to convey my sincere thanks to you all participants, all resource persons, and also Swapna Society, its members, all the members, and particularly Tapos. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
जो स्पेशली 3 दिन का जो सीआरई है आज हम लोग का कंप्लीट होने जा रहा है, तो स्पेशली थैंक्स खालिद सर फ्रॉम बांग्लादेश। खालिद सर ही मैट कांटेक्ट करके दिया है स्टीफन सर को, स्पेशली खालिद सर को भी थैंक्स, अनिरुद्ध सर को भी थैंक्स हम लोग को पूरा प्रोग्राम में मतलब हेल्प करने के लिए, स्पेशली ज्योति विकास सर और जो सभी पार्टिसिपेंट। न्यू ईयर के लिए भी हम लोग का स्वप्न सोसाइटी और तोराई डुआर्स स्पेशल एजुकेशन ट्रेनिंग कॉलेज से भी आप लोग को स्पेशली थैंक्स। आज हम लोग को 3 दिन का जो सीआरई है वो आज हम लोग को खत्म होने जा रहे हैं। इनका बाद आप लोग को एक एवल्यूशन शीट से मिलेगा, एवल्यूशन पार्ट 1 मिलेगा, 4 फीडबैक फॉर्म मिलेगा और साथ में आप लोग को एक टोटल सीआरई का एक फीडबैक फॉर्म मिलेगा, हम लोग का इंस्टीट्यूशनल एक फीडबैक फॉर्म मिलेगा। डेली आप लोग को 5 जो फॉर्म भरना आप लोग भरता है, तो वो जो आज हम लोग को और एक मिलेगा, टोटल 6 मिलेगा। टोटल आप लोग को 4 रिसोर्स पर्सन का फीडबैक फॉर्म, एक एवल्यूशन फॉर्म और एक हम लोग को 3 दिन का जो CRE प्रोग्राम है इनका फीडबैक फॉर्म मिलेगा। थैंक्स स्पेशली आप लोग को। अनिरुद्ध सर, हाँ सर, अच्छा अच्छा देखिए हाँ हाँ सर,
हाँ ठीक আছে।
हाँ सर,
हाँ ঠিক ঠিক হ্যাঁ।
তো আজকে আমাদের 3 দিনের যে প্রোগ্রাম সেটা আমাদের শেষ হলো আর কি। আমরা 4টা টোটাল, আজকে আমরা 6টা লিঙ্ক আমরা দিয়ে দিব আলাদা করে। একটা আমরা অল ওভার আমাদের যে CRE প্রোগ্রামটা চললো তার একটা ফিডব্যাক ফর্ম, আর একটা আমরা দিব এদের এভ্যালুয়েশন পার্ট, আর 4টা দিব আমাদের রিসোর্স পার্সনের ফিডব্যাক। हाँ सर,
हाँ हिंदी में भी बोल दीजिए, हिंदी में भी बोल दीजिए थोड़ा
हाँ सर।
सभी के लिए।
आज जो हम लोग को टोटल 6 लिंक देंगे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में। 6 लिंक में एक है ऑल ओवर हम लोग को जो CRE प्रोग्राम था वो कैसे लगा, हम लोग का इंस्टीट्यूशनल का, और एक देंगे एवल्यूशन पार्ट, और 4 देंगे रिसोर्स पर्सन का फीडबैक फॉर्म। और आप लोग को जो PPT है, हम आप लोग को जितना हम लोग का PPT आया है ऑलरेडी आप लोग को हम लोग शेयर कर दिया है, और बाकी जो है जो हम लोग का PPT आएगा वो आप लोग को ग्रुप में हम लोग दे देंगे। और साथ में आप लोग को जो सर्टिफिकेट है लगभग 2-3 दिन से हम लोग का, आप लोग को 2-3 दिन बाद आप लोग को सर्टिफिकेट बाय व्हाट्सएप में मिल जाएगा। जिसका कोई एब्सेंट है उन लोग को 3 बार, जिसका एब्सेंट है उनको सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिलेगा। और साथ में जिसका एक बार हम लोग व्हाट्सएप देने का बाद वो आप लोग करेक्शन कर लीजिए। कुछ प्रॉब्लम है तो हम लोग को तुरंत, आप लोग को जो हम लोग का एडमिन है, जिस नंबर से आप लोग को व्हाट्सएप में आप लोग को गया है सर्टिफिकेट, उसमें आप लोग को करेक्शन जो होगा वो आप लोग भेज दीजिए। और सर्टिफिकेट लास्ट जब हम लोग भेजा जाएगा, भेजने के बाद हम लोग आप लोग को ग्रुप में SMS कर देंगे। किसी को ड्यू सर्टिफिकेट है तो आप लोग को तुरंत आप लोग को ग्रुप में आप लोग बोल दीजिए, नहीं तो आप लोग को फिर सर्टिफिकेट हम लोग मेल पे भेज देंगे। कुछ दिन बाद मेल पे एक बार हम लोग को भेजने के बाद ऑलरेडी हम लोग ग्रुप में बोल देंगे सभी सर्टिफिकेट का भेज दिया है। इनका बाद जो सर्टिफिकेट आप लोग को दोबारा 3-4 महीना बाद आप लोग को फिर सर्टिफिकेट मांगेगा, किसी को नहीं मिलेगा, कोई गलती हो गया है, हम लोग को व्हाट्सएप से डिलीट हो गया, मेल से डिलीट हो गया, तो फिर एक्स्ट्रा आप लोग के लिए एप्लीकेशन करना पड़ेगा, उनके लिए अलग से फॉर्मेलिटी करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है, और किसी को कुछ बोलना है तो आप लोग बोल सकता है। কারো কিছু যদি বলার থাকে, আমাদের অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমরা যখন সার্টিফিকেটগুলো 2-3 দিনের মধ্যে আমরা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে পাঠাবো। হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে পাঠানোর পরে আপনারা সেটা দেখবেন যে নাম্বার থেকে আপনাদের হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আপনাদের সার্টিফিকেটগুলো যাবে, কারো যদি কোনো ভুল হয়ে থাকে সেটা সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আমাদের ওই হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আপনারা জানাবেন যে আমাদের এই জায়গাটা ভুল আছে, তাহলে আমরা তুরন্ত আমরা কারেকশন আমরা করে দিব। তারপরে আমরা 5-7 দিন পর থেকে আমরা মেলে পাঠাবো আর সার্টিফিকেট গুলো মেলে পাওয়া মেলে আমাদের হোয়াটসঅ্যাপের যে কপিটা সেটাই আমরা মেলে পাঠাবো। মেল আইডি আপনাদের যদি ঠিকঠাক থাকে নিশ্চয়ই মেলে যাবে, কিন্তু আপনাদের কিছুদিনের পরে আপনারা দেখা গেল ওটা ডিলিট হয়ে গেল বা হারিয়ে গেল, আবার আপনারা আমাদেরকে 6 মাস পরে আমাদের সার্টিফিকেটটা হারিয়ে গেল, তাহলে কিন্তু আলাদাভাবে এটা আমাদের একটা অ্যাপ্লিকেশন দিয়ে পুরো ফর্মালিটি মেনটেন করে আমাদেরকে সেটা আমরা তাহলে আমরা 3 মাস পরে আমরা পুরো সার্টিফিকেট আর ঠিক আছে। এটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভাবে রাখবেন সার্টিফিকেটটাকে, আর যখন আপনাদের কপিটা পেয়ে যাবেন সেটাকে আপনারা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভাবে আপনারা প্রিন্ট করে বা কোথাও সেভ করে রাখবেন, যেটা আপনাদের পরবর্তীতে কাজে লাগবে আর কি।
স্যার একটা কথা বলবো? হ্যালো, বলছি আপনারা যে সার্টিফিকেটটা দেবেন সেই সার্টিফিকেটটা একসাথে সবগুলো দেবেন কিনা পার্সোনাল পার্সোনাল আলাদা আলাদা দেবেন?
না না, পার্সোনাল আপনাদের পার্সোনাল যে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ গ্রুপ থাকবে না, পার্সোনালি যে আপনাদের হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বার যেটা থাকবে সেটা আপনাকে পার্সোনালি আপনাদেরকে পাঠানো হবে।
না সেটা বলছি না, আমি বলছি দেখুন এর আগে একটা সিআরই করা হয়েছে তো একসাথে 100 জনের পিডিএফ দিয়ে দিয়েছে, সেরকম দিলে কি হয় স্যার? আমাদের
আমরা 100 জনের দেব না, আপনার হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আপনারই সার্টিফিকেট যাবে।
হ্যাঁ এক্স্যাক্টলি, আমি সেটাই
আপনার মেলে আপনারই সার্টিফিকেট যাবে, ঠিক আছে?
ঠিক আছে,
ওখানে
তাহলে ডাউনলোড করতে অসুবিধা হয়। হ্যাঁ
सर गुड इवनिंग। हेलो सर, जो पिछले बार जो सब हुआ था ना, जो सीआरई सब हुआ था उसका आपका अपना जो आरसीआई साइट है उसमें क्रेडिट नंबर सब अपडेट नहीं हुआ है सर।
रेगुलेशन फॉर्म पठालेन
हम इसलिए बहुत पोर्टल का काम हुआ ना, इसलिए थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो गया है। हम लोग का से साथ भी दूसरा कॉलेज का हुआ था, उनका भी अभी तक अपडेट नहीं हुआ है। हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, आप लोग भी आरसीआई में थोड़ा फोन करिए, नहीं तो मेल भेजिए, शायद हो जाएगा।
हम सर
सर रेगुलेशन फॉर्म पठालेन
पिछले सर एक
सर
सर लेट मी
ऑलरेडी
हेलो पिछले
रेगुलेशन
साल जो
फॉर्म
हुआ था ना,
पठालेन
পাঠাবে বলছে তো
গ্রুপে অলরেডি
পুরুলিয়া থেকে বলছি, রেগুলেশন ফর্ম পাঠালেন?
পাঠানো হয়েছে, দেখো গ্রুপে দেখো পাঠানো হয়েছে।
ফর্ম পাঠিয়েছেন?
স্যার বলছি সার্টিফিকেটটা প্রিন্ট আউট বের করতে হবে।
হ্যাঁ প্রিন্ট আউট করতে হবে। হ্যাঁ
সার্টিফিকেট যদি হারিয়ে যায়।
हेलो सर, पिछले साल भी जो हुआ था, जब सीआरई सब हुआ था उसका भी अपडेट नहीं हुआ।
वही तो बोल रहे हैं ना, वही तो बोल रहे हैं आप।
वो होगा, थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा एक्चुअली टेक्निकली।
सर एक साथ जो सब बोलते हैं ना कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है।
हाँ हाँ, कुछ टेक्निकली कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुआ है तो वो हो जाएगा शायद।
ठीक है थैंक यू।
ठीक है, और कुछ को पूछना है कुछ?
হ্যালো
हाँ बोलिए।
বলছি স্যার আরসিআই কি ওটা আমাদেরকে সার্টিফিকেটটা মেল করতে হবে না আপনারা মেল করে দেবেন?
না, আমরা তো এখান থেকে আপনাদের নাম সিআরআর নাম্বার দিয়ে আমরা লিস্ট করে আমরা পাঠিয়ে দিব, একটা সফট কপি পাঠিয়ে দেব, একটা হার্ড কপি পাঠিয়ে দেব আমরা।
हेलो सर। हेलो,
हाँ बोलून।
अरे सर प्रेजेंट हुई थी आज हमारी।
क्या नाम है? लता देवी।
यस सर।
आपका व्हाट्सएप में आपका गया है नाम कुछ?
नो सर, आज तो कोई अपडेट नहीं रही।
तो नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हुआ।
यस सर। सर लीव नाउ।
तो कल का जो पीपीटी सब है, पीपीटी भी नहीं आया अभी तक।
हाँ पीपीटी आज एक पीपीटी आया है, वो हम लोग ग्रुप में दे देंगे, ठीक है ना? कल गुरु मैडम ने शायद भेजा नहीं है, एक सर ने भेजा नहीं है, वो आज सर ने भेज दिया है, आज हम लोग ग्रुप में दे देंगे, ठीक है ना?
कल का भी नहीं आया है,
वो हम ग्रुप में दे देंगे।
हेलो सर।
বলছি প্রিন্ট আউটটা কালার বের করব না এমনি প্রিন্ট আউট বের করব স্যার সার্টিফিকেটে?
ফরম্যাটে আপনি কালারই বের করে রাখুন।
हेलो सर।
আমরা বন্ধ করে দিচ্ছি না
सर कैन आई लीव नाउ?
अगर कोई गलती हो जाए तो दोबारा मौका मिलेगा। थैंक यू। हम लोग भी बंद करने जा रहे हैं, हम लोग का स्टाफ बहुत दूर जाएगा, ठीक है? थैंक यू
मिस्टर तापस।
बैग में गलती हो जाएगा दोबारा मौका
मिस्टर
मिलेगा।
तापस, मिस्टर तापस।
हाँ हाँ सर बताइए। हाँ बोलो।
First of all, we are giving thanks to all of you. হ্যাঁ, আপনারা সুন্দর চেষ্টা করেছেন, প্রচেষ্টা করেছেন, বিশেষ করে আমাদের মতো যারা আমরা ওয়ার্কিং এ রয়েছি আর কি, তাদের ক্ষেত্রে ডিস্টেন্সটা একটা খুব মানে খুব ভালো একটা উদ্যোগ আর কি। We are really for all of you, and with you I think one doctor is there. I also thank to Mr. Doctor. I forget his name also. Sorry.
Sir, leave nibo. Sir, leave nibo.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, sir. নমস্কার। ঠিক আছে স্যার, ভালো থাকবেন।
ওকে, হ্যাঁ, বাই।
এখন চিনতে পেরেছেন আমাকে?
হ্যাঁ,
এখন দেখলেন আমাকে চিনতে পেরেছেন?
হ্যাঁ, চিনতে পেরেছি।
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
ওকে, টাটা।
হ্যাঁ, বাই বাই। হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, খুব ভালো লাগলো ক্লাস করে।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে, ভালো থাকবেন সবাই।
হ্যাঁ, একদম।
আমরা বন্ধ করলাম। হ্যাঁ,
আচ্ছা,
অনেক রাত্রি হয়ে গেছে, আমাদের স্টাফরা আবার বাড়ি যাবে তো।
আচ্ছা,
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
ওকে, সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা, সবাই ভালো থাকবেন।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
সবাই নিউ ইয়ারে সবাই আমরা যেন ভালো থাকে 2022 এই কামনা করব।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। ওকে।